WorldMag.com presents a World Forum podcast in cooperation with Kevin Bowling, founding pastor of the Mountain Bridge Bible Fellowship located in Travelers Rest, South Carolina, and host of Knowing the Truth radio program. 1 year after the devastating earthquake, Haitians continue to face adversity. News editor for World Magazine, Jamie Dean, provides an update for Kevin Bowling on the progress of reconstruction in Haiti, as well as complications brought on by a tropical storm, cholera epidemic, bureaucratic red tape, and the return of Baby Doc.
Jamie, it's a pleasure to have you back.
Well, thanks for having me.
I understand, Jamie, you returned recently from Haiti, is that correct?
I did. I returned this past Friday from Haiti.
I want to just get your sense of what is taking place. Now, you've written a couple of articles, and maybe we can combine these two thoughts together. The idea of the political circus that's taking place there, but that the people are still languishing. I think that's the story of what's going on. Would you address that a little bit and give us an update on what's taking place?
Yeah, sure. You know, I was in Haiti actually about a week and a half or 2 weeks after the earthquake last year, so I was interested to see what things would look like when I got back just a couple of weeks ago. And to be quite honest, even though obviously the immediate trauma of last year has passed and it was kind of a relief to see people moving on and not in quite that emergency mode, in another sense, things looked very much the same. I mean, there were parts of Port-au-Prince where I could have taken a picture last week and compared it to a picture last year, and it would have looked exactly the same. You know, the presidential palace still cracked, fallen down in the same exact spot as it was last year. The tent city right across the street on what is essentially kind of like a national park, still there. Lots of the streets still clogged with rubble. Most of the rubble in Port-au-Prince still sitting in the same place as it was last year. So to some degree, you do kind of wonder what has been going on for the past year. Not a lot in the way of rubble removal and reconstruction. Now, of course, unfortunately, Haiti was struck with another series of disasters over the last year, none as severe as the earthquake, but you know, as the summer wore on, there was a tropical storm that hit right at the epicenter of the earthquake, flooded out a good bit of that area, so they coped with that. But the most serious thing was a cholera epidemic that developed late last year. Has probably killed at least 3,500 people. Some people think it's really twice that many, just from unreported deaths. And so you really essentially ended up having another disaster within a disaster. So NGOs and aid groups were kind of shifting gears all of a sudden. They were all of a sudden becoming cholera experts and opening cholera clinics. So it was just an overwhelming situation for everyone who was there. But I think you're right, you know. There were a lot of really high-profile events that have happened over the last couple of weeks politically, but underneath all that, you still have people coming into cholera clinics, children, babies, mothers who are homeless, who have no access to food, no access to clean drinking water, or very little access to those things, and are just kind of trying to eke it out while the political sphere just kind of goes in circles. It's a very frustrating dynamic to watch.
There still doesn't seem to be any sort of governmental infrastructure there, which is concerning on a number of fronts. Not only that nothing is getting done, but once again, we see a disaster take place. We see the people of the United States rise up and give tremendous amounts of money. My only question is, where is the money going? If the government is almost non-existent, if the simplest of this part, removing rubble, you know, which basically just involves machinery, you know, being brought in to remove this rubble out of the way to start clearing this up and cleaning it up, seems like one of the simplest aspects of this. There's other bigger political and poverty-related problems that are there. Is the money getting there? Is the money being lost? Is it being the corruption so great that somebody is making off with the money and nothing's really getting done because of that? What's your take on that?
Well, you know, the money is coming in slowly. There's no doubt about that. Even the U.S., you know, pledged some millions of dollars in reconstruction aid, and the first of our reconstruction aid to Haiti, about $120 million, just arrived in November. You know, some of that was tied up in various bills and that sort of thing, and some congressmen wanted to see assurances that this money was going to get into the right hands. So definitely some of the money is tied up on the donors' ends, and Haiti is waiting for some of that money to come. Now, other monies have arrived. I mean, there are private foundations who are at work on the ground, and millions of dollars have come in. But what's amazing to me about Haiti is that even though you're right, just this complete lack of infrastructure, no infrastructure at all, you can still have miles and miles of red tape. It's amazing how that works. One part doesn't work, the other part works quite well. And so there's kind of these endless arguments about things like, where are we going to put the rubble? Where are we going to dump the rubble? And so we don't move the rubble because we're not sure where we're going to put it. You know, arguments that seem, you know, really just maddening when there's plenty of places to put it. But there are questions about land ownership and whether we can dump here and there. So just that's one example of how things can just get really mired. Other questions like who gets the contracts? Are Haitians getting enough of these contracts to do this work? Are too many of them going to foreigners? You know, all of these things sort of mire the process and keep things from getting done. So what you end up seeing in Haiti so far, you know, just from what I saw, was that a lot of the NGOs are just getting a lot more work done. I mean, they'll go straight to a local mayor and say, you know, can we come in here and do this for you? And the mayor will typically say yes. You know, for instance, Samaritan's Purse, I did a good bit of traveling with them. And we went over to Leogon, where the epicenter of the earthquake happened, and a lot of rubble was removed. And essentially Samaritan's Purse and maybe one other organization did a lot of that rubble removal. They went directly to local officials and said, we want to help you get this out. And they said, okay. So sometimes these non-governmental organizations, especially the ones that do a really good job, are able to cut through a lot of that and just kind of get things done. And so the most work, I would say, that's being done now is being done by some of those groups.
That is very interesting because they don't have all that red tape to deal with. I just find that very interesting that that's where the majority of the actual work gets done. Jamie, any other aspect of what you saw there in Haiti? I just noted that when you were mentioning that the money has started to come, all of a sudden Baby Doc shows up here again. Their politics is just in a mess, huh?
It's bizarre. Yeah, I mean, everyone was stunned last Sunday night when the news came out that Baby Doc Duvier is at the airport. You know, there was just kind of this what is he doing here moment. You know, and a lot of people, you know, there are a lot of theories about why he came back. A lot of them involve money, and he certainly, I mean, I think the thing about Baby Doc Duvier to keep in mind is that he sort of is the crowning example of how foreign aid can go bad. I mean, he is just known for, during his essentially dictatorship from 1971 to 1986, he was just known for taking tons of foreign aid. He kind of laid a guilt complex on the United States and other parts of the world, and then took all this money and just enriched himself. And we played right into that. Thankfully, we've gotten a little bit smarter about that. We have some safeguards in place to not give money so directly to the government, but I think the same principles apply, that there is just such a tremendous opportunity for corruption in Haiti that you have to be really careful about where you're sending money and how it's getting spent. And especially with this issue of no infrastructure, difficulties in making decisions, if you're just pumping money into a system like that, you can't expect a lot of results. So I think that really, you know, donor countries are really going to have to think about, you know, how to get around some of that. Are we hurting more than we're helping? This is the question I think that we should be asking as donor countries and as personal donors. As we're looking at organizations to give to, we should ask that question as well. What have they actually gotten done? Not what are they saying they're going to do or committing to doing, but what have they actually gotten done? And those are the places that you really want to support.
Exactly. Well said. Jamie, thank you very much for visiting with us today. We really appreciate your insight and the reporting that you do about these issues. It's really helpful for us to not have to go to Haiti to find this out. We can read read the magazine, read the articles that you write, and then really get a good grasp on what's taking place around the world. We really appreciate it.
Thanks, Kevin. Good to be here.
Thank you for listening to a World Forum podcast presented by WorldMag.com, the online home of World Magazine.